Hello everyone, Phil here from PCGamesN, and I'm joined by...
Hello, I'm Jordan. Sorry, I really couldn't.
We'll fix that in post. And today we're going to be talking about War Thunder's Naval expansion. Is it an expansion, Jordan? Why don't you talk us through exactly how this naval content is being delivered?
Okay, so at the moment, they're just trying out, it's a pre-beta, which is definitely still a beta of sorts.
That sounds like a beta to me.
Yeah, so you can buy into it at the moment. They do, special packs with ships that, when it gets unveiled in full, you'll be able to use. It'll be exclusive. But, yeah, at the moment, it's very early stages. They're just testing out a few boats in weekly sessions, like every Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
How does one find out when those sessions are going on? Because we've had to do this.
Yeah.
So we had to get this info somehow.
Yeah, they post them quite late on the main official site. But yeah, it'll come up mid Friday.
Okay, so you gotta be watching.
Yeah,
like a hawk. And you've been out into the oceans, the open oceans.
Yeah. So I've played about 15 hours of it so far.
That's pretty good going.
Yeah. So yeah, they've run quite a few sessions, and it's pretty good. It's totally different to both the ground forces and the aviation side of the game, though.
You would hope so.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's probably slower paced.
Yeah. You'd imagine, but it's not. It's probably the fastest of all the game modes.
So there's still a lot going on, even though you're sort of ostensibly moving quite slowly. It being a massive boat.
Well, that's the thing. There aren't massive boats. It's sort of it's War Thunder boats rather than War Thunder ships.
World of War boats.
Yeah, so you get some torpedo boats, sort of coastal guard boats. The biggest at the moment it's like an armored barge, which does move ridiculously slowly, but it's pretty powerful as a result.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very fast paced. You're sort of always shooting because you can always see the enemy. Whereas ground forces and aviation, you sort of pick your moments to strike.
That sounds like an elegant solution to naval combat, because when I think of naval combat IRL, I imagine it probably is quite slow paced.
Yeah, I spoke to the CEO of Gaijin, and he said sort of the reason why they did this, aimed for smaller boats, was because if they did realistic naval battles, at the minimum it would be something like 2 hours long.
Yeah, that's a pretty niche market that would sit there and do that. Although I think probably there would be a market for it, but
yeah,
it's not really in line with what War Thunder's about. So, so how long does the average engagement take then, once you've locked horns with an enemy boat?
Well, it takes a lot longer to down a boat than it does airplane or tank.
Yeah.
So and that's with constant fire. So you've got mostly machine guns. A couple of the boats have larger cannons. It takes a good 2 to 5 minutes. 2 to 5 minutes to down another boat, and that's because there are huge crew numbers compared to tanks. So part of War Thunder is that you have to sort of decimate the entire crew of a vehicle in order to take it out. Well, for the boats, most of the crews run up to about 55 members, whereas tanks it can be 3 or 4.
Wow, so you've got to just be shooting at every individual.
Yeah, it gets pretty whack-a-mole after a while.
I see. So what's the best way to do it then?
Well, so you've got larger boats which move a bit slower, but the best and quickest way to get rid of another enemy is to use torpedoes. So the US Elco PT boat comes with a couple of torpedoes, and it's by far the quickest boat in the beta.
Okay.
And you can take out any ship with a couple of shots or a couple of torpedoes. But aiming them is very hard because of the trajectories and trying to assess where your enemy will be.
Do you aim through a first person viewpoint?
It's pretty much wherever you're steering when you shoot them.
Okay, so there's presumably there's a downside to using torpedoes there as well, because they're slightly unwieldy, right?
Yeah, they're pretty difficult to aim. You can't use them over long range because by the time they get to your enemy, they'll be long gone. And also, if you do have to use them in close quarters, you're taking a lot of damage as a result. And a lot of boats come with their own torpedoes. It's sort of it's a suicide dash, but it's pretty efficient.
I see. Is there an overlay that will project where Do you know what I mean? A bit like using a sniper scope to adjust for wind.
Yeah, I
and
think
things.
if you hold down the fire key for the torpedoes, I think it puts sort of like overlays a line, sort of roughly where it will go.
Right.
But it's easy to predict where the torpedoes will go. It's just where your enemy will be.
Harder to predict where the
Yeah.
boat's going to be that you're
Yeah.
aiming at. I see. So are you and your opponents constantly sort of in motion? Is it like full throttle all the way?
Yeah, it can be quite hard to actually manage where you're going because instead of the tanks, if you hold down W, you're going forward the whole time. Same with aeroplanes, you don't stop moving. But in the boats, you sort of have 5 gears forward and a couple in reverse as well. So you sort of have to manage quite carefully what kind of speed you're going at, because if you're not looking, you'll just hit an island or a friendly boat or something, which can be equally as devastating.
This was an issue for us as well. For anyone listening who also joined us on our Eve Let's Play adventures, throttle became a bit of an issue for us then as well.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear that's also an issue.
Like, it's not that I can't drive.
Ships.
I can drive.
I'm not making that insinuation. I'm just saying it's interesting that's come up again. Make of that what you will. So what are your favourite ships so far? I know you like to list ships.
Yeah,
so I'm giving you license.
Well, I mean, naming them is fun too.
They've
so
got fun names.
I've only used 4. I understand, like, in some of the different windows of beta, they've let you sort of try out some different ones, but for the most part, they've had 4 mainstays, so 1 for each nation, apart from Japan. So probably the favourite would have to be the German AFD1, which is the armoured barge. Yeah, it's a classic. It's the biggest boat in the game. It moves at like 4 kilometers per hour, which is absolutely horrendous, especially...
that's walking pace. That's quite a slow walk.
I mean, the pace of the battle in general is very quick, so you finally round a corner, and then if there's a torpedo waiting for you on the other side, it can be pretty harsh. But if you use it properly, stay well back, just make use of the armament, you can go the whole game just shooting from across the map and get like a really high number of kill assists. Not so much kills, but kill assists. So
just playing the long game.
Exactly.
Grinding them down. And is there much combat with land or air at the moment? And is that planned in future if there isn't
So combat with ground units, like at most, they said will be special events. So occasionally they do special events like on weekends and things.
Mm-hmm.
There's already like a sort of a cross with naval and aviation. So, in the same way that you do in ground forces, every now and again you'll have the option to spawn into a plane, sort of above the battlefield. So yeah, there's a bit of interplay there, but it's unlikely that you'll see any like ship versus tank combat, because it would probably be awful.
Tricky to balance all those sort of different systems and paces and velocities and things like that, I guess.
Well,
and realism that's in the game.
Yeah, it would be weird to have lots of tanks lined up and lots of ships lined up and just shooting at each other, because map design doesn't really cater to.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about how that might work and how such a match would begin. Well, there we have it. That's what we've learned so far from War Thunder's naval content. If you enjoyed the video, why not subscribe for more? And leave us a comment as well. Let us know what you thought about it. Hit the bell as well as the subscribe button. That's important these days. And we will catch you next time. Thanks very much.